Hello lovely people who enjoy lovely things, my name is Rach and I know a thing or two about replaying old games. A lot of games that come out these days are fairly forgettable. Sure, they're visually superior to the games that came before them, but they sometimes feel like they're lacking that special little spark that made us fall in love with gaming in the first place. Nowadays we buy them, we play them, and then we forget about them almost immediately. Of course, this isn't always the case. Every now and then something comes along to remind us just why we adore this medium. We'll always have these enduring, infinitely rewarding experiences to come back to. Some of these games are classics, others are seemingly endless, but they all have one thing in common. They will never die. For one reason or another, we'll be playing these games for the rest of our lives. Welcome back to WhatCulture Gaming. These are 15 video games you'll play for the rest of your life. Number 15, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is an absolute classic. There's just something about the game that managed to strike a chord with players. In technical terms, it may not be the most impressive game in the series, but it's certainly the most memorable. Again, like many of the examples on this list, Ocarina is the archetype. It's the game you always come back to when you want to remind yourself how great a particular genre of video games can be. Not only are the puzzles excellent and the dungeons varied, but everything from the music to the characters is positively buzzing with life. Ocarina of Time is the real deal, a genuine adventure that games today could learn a thing or two from. Number 14, Tetris. Is there anything more timeless than Tetris? The game's already been around for over 30 years and there's absolutely nothing to suggest that it's going anywhere anytime soon. In 50 years, maybe even 100, Tetris will still be one of the highest selling video games of all time. It's a perfect game, a simple, uncomplicated puzzler, instantly identifiable, and it has one of the most iconic theme songs of all time, and now it is stuck in your head. Believe me when I say we'll all still be playing Tetris when we're all old and grey. Number 13, Super Mario Bros. Speaking of timeless, iconic video games, Super Mario Bros. Will certainly live forever in one form or another. Not only has the game been incredibly influential over the years, but it's still perhaps the best example of the platform genre to date. The controls are tight, it functions perfectly, and it's only improved with age. There have been so many sequels and spin-offs to Super Mario Bros., but nothing will ever quite top the original. Nintendo themselves seem to agree because they've been banking on the nostalgia for it ever since 1985. Number 12, Half-Life 2. If video games have become a little stale as of late, the FPS genre has to be the worst offender. Honestly, it's getting hard to differentiate between most military shooters. They look identical, and they're all so busy stealing each other's ideas that none of them ever seem to attempt anything remotely original. For this reason, every now and then, you've just got to go back and play Half-Life 2. In terms of varied environments, interesting puzzles, unique enemies, and dynamic gunplay, it's just never been topped. Number 11, Chrono Trigger. Originally released for the NES back in 1995, Chrono Trigger is one of the most recognisable RPGs in the world, and a hell of a game. The plot revolves around a group of heroes travelling through time, attempting to prevent catastrophe. The graphics were impressive for the time, and the battle system was fairly unique. In years to come, Chrono Trigger will still represent the standard for RPGs. The game was a perfect collaboration between several of the biggest names in the industry. It was a perfect storm of talent working at the top of their field to create one of the most memorable and iconic games of all time. No other game has had quite as many notable composers, developers, and illustrators contribute to its success. Number 10, The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is a big game, a really big game. It's absolutely massive, with hundreds upon thousands of things to occupy your time, from side quests to the Gwent card game. In fact, it's so flipping massive, it'll probably never feel stale, because even after you've beaten the game, there's still over 100 hours of content to explore. The open world is massive, the characters believable and sympathetic, and the game's story unparalleled in both complexity and scope. I mean, what's not to like? Even after it's eventually been topped, possibly by Cyberpunk, who knows? It'll always be the game that came along and showed us just how massively epic that video games can be. Number 9, Super Metroid. Like Super Mario Bros., Super Metroid is still one of the absolute best examples of the platform genre. It was the perfect blend of action and storytelling, and to this day, it continues to be a huge influence. The series has gone on to do some interesting things, but nothing will ever quite top the original. Metroid Prime came pretty close, but in recent years, the series has gone a little sour. When modern gaming gets you down, you'll always return to Super Metroid, and that's unlikely to change anytime soon. Number 8, Final Fantasy VII. Perhaps the most standout Final Fantasy game of all time, there's a reason Final Fantasy VII is constantly being re-released. It's just that good. The series itself has had its highs and lows, but the 7th installment has to represent the series' peak. The story was captivating, the gameplay was dynamic, and the characters had far more depth than you'd expect. The game is currently being remade and is due to hit shelves later this year. It'll no doubt be a visual treat, but only time will tell if it can stand beside the original. Regardless, we'll always have Final Fantasy VII to remind us how fantastic JRPGs can be. Number 7, Diablo 3. Diablo 3 is devilishly good at finding a way to keep you grinding. The 5-act story is just the beginning. Diablo's endgame is renowned for being simply endless. Not only can you infinitely explore the adventure mode, building on your character's strength in various different builds, but you can also do it all over again with a different character class entirely. And that's without even mentioning the seasonal mode, which involves starting from the very beginning every 6 months or so, and building a brand new character from the ground up, from peasant to visceral demon-slaying god. It's time to face it that those seasonal rewards, including companion pets and beautiful cosmetics, will keep you coming back to this game for the rest of your life, Rachel. It's okay, guys. I've made my peace with it. Number 6, Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. Like The Witcher 3, Skyrim is a staggeringly massive game, featuring hundreds of quests to occupy your every waking hour. It's also potentially endless, seeing as how the game generates an endless stream of new quests after the guild storylines have been completed. Granted, these quests usually just involve running around taking errands, taking out random targets for the Dark Brotherhood, ransacking properties for the Thieves Guild, or just delivering messages and retrieving items. It's busy work, but it will keep you occupied forever, potentially at least, running around sorting out everyone else's messes. Number 5, Elite Dangerous. A space adventure, trading, and combat simulator, Elite Dangerous has something for everyone. The game revolves around collecting resources and trading them in order to make improvements to your ship, but the possibilities are endless. It features an incalculable amount of different scenarios. You can complete bounty hunter missions, you can focus on trading resources, or you can work for each of the various factions. The game allows players to explore a galaxy of some 400 billion star systems, meaning that you'll never run out of things to do, places to see, or adventures to have. Number 4, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. The consistent popularity of CSGO is proof enough that we'll be playing this game for the rest of our lives. It originally launched back in 2012, and the game has been featured almost continuously on Steam's list of best-selling games ever since. While Call of Duty has been forced to constantly reinvent itself to keep fans invested in the series, CSGO has been entertaining the same community of PC gamers for years, effortlessly. The game still looks great and plays great, it's being updated constantly, and it will never need a sequel. Number 3, Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is perhaps the best farming game ever made. That may not sound like much of an achievement, but this game is utterly captivating. It's one great, big, charmingly pixelated sandbox with a wholesome story, interesting characters to befriend, plenty of crops to harvest, and animals to tend. I strongly believe there will always be a place for these kind of games. Playing them turns minutes into hours scarily quickly. Number 2, Resident Evil 4. The Resident Evil series has gotten pretty convoluted over the years. At this point, it's almost impossible to keep track of all the characters, their relationships, and whatever the hell the plot has turned into. With that said, Resident Evil 4 stands out from the pack. Not because it was particularly better than the other Resi games, but because it was a standalone story with only a few ties to the rest of the series. As a result, it wasn't bogged down trying to contextualize everything, it was able to stand up in its own 2 feet, resulting in one of the best, most replayable horror games of all time. Number 1, Minecraft. Because of course it's Minecraft, a game that is literally endless. Minecraft is constantly loading new terrain for the player to explore. Simply pick a direction, start walking, and you'll never run out of things to do. Minecraft is about creating whatever your imagination can dream up, which is something that should appeal to just about everyone. It's essentially an infinite sandbox with no parameters, where the only limit is your own imagination. It doesn't matter if you're 9 or 90, Minecraft has something to offer everyone for potentially forever. And that's our list. Thanks so much for watching, guys. My name has been Rach. You can follow me on Twitter if you like at Don't Rach Quit. Be sure to subscribe to WhatCulture Gaming for more lists like this every single day. Take care of yourselves, you're all amazing, and damn, you look good today. See you later, guys.